Unhealed men bleed on people who didn't cut them. This powerful quote speaks volumes about the silent damage unresolved emotional wounds can cause, not just to ourselves, but to those around us. In leadership, this truth is even more urgent. Leading while unhealed isn't just dangerous, it's destructive. Leadership magnifies who we are, and if we're leading from a place of pain, trauma, ego, or unresolved wounds, we unconsciously transfer that energy onto those who follow us. This is why we must heal before we lead, the hidden cost of unhealed leadership. Unhealed leaders don't just carry their wounds, they wield them. Leadership is a position of influence, and influence magnifies what's inside. When leaders carry unresolved pain, that pain becomes policy. It shapes decisions, fuels reactions, and defines culture. An unhealed leader might misinterpret feedback as rejection or betrayal, responding with defensiveness instead of growth. Seek control over people and outcomes, mistaking dominance for direction. Project arrogance to mask deep-rooted insecurity and fear of inadequacy. Recreate toxic cycles they have never examined, repeating patterns learned from dysfunctional environments, believing them to be leadership norms. These leaders often believe they're protecting themselves. They're bleeding emotionally onto their teams, families, and communities. Imagine a manager who harshly criticizes employees, but because he equates every mistake with being unworthy, shaped by a childhood where love was conditional and achievement was the only currency of acceptance. Or the team leader who micromanages every task because, growing up, trust was a liability, and vulnerability was always met with betrayal. These aren't just bad habits, they're emotional reflexes rooted in old pain. In each of these scenarios, the leader's pain precedes their purpose. Instead of leading from clarity, they lead from chaos. Instead of empowering others, they unconsciously seek to control them. And instead of building something healthy, they often replicate the dysfunction they never healed from. Until that pain is faced, named, and healed, it will continue to shape not just the leader's path, but everyone walking alongside them. Do the work, what healing looks like. Healing is not a straight line or a one-time event, it's an ongoing, often uncomfortable journey. But it is essential for anyone who seeks to lead with integrity. Real leadership requires emotional maturity, and emotional maturity demands healing. Here are key pillars on the path to inner wholeness. 1. Self-awareness. Face your inner mirror. Every great leader starts by leading one person, themselves. This begins with radical self-awareness. Ask yourself, where do my reactions come from? What old wounds am I carrying into new roles and relationships? Unhealed people often confuse defense mechanisms with personality traits. What you call just how I am might be how I learned to survive. Being honest with yourself isn't always comfortable, but it is crucial. You can't manage what you don't measure, and you can't heal what you won't acknowledge. 2. Seek support. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. Contrary to cultural myths about self-made men and lone wolf leadership, healing is not a solo sport. Whether it's therapy, coaching, spiritual guidance, or a trusted community, you need spaces where you can be seen without judgment and challenged without shame. Vulnerability is not weakness. 3. Own your patterns. Accountability over blame. Healing requires brutal honesty, not just about where you've been hurt, but also about how you've hurt others. It takes courage to confront the harm you've caused when leading from your pain. Patterns don't change until you name them. Do you overreact? Shut down? 4. Forgive, especially yourself. Many leaders are secretly at war with themselves. They carry guilt, regret, or shame from past failures, sometimes ones no one even knows about. But unhealed shame becomes a prison. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing harm. It means releasing the grip the past has on your present and future. Forgiving yourself is an act of courage. 5. Build new emotional muscles. Healing doesn't just remove pain, it replaces dysfunction with strength. Learn emotional regulation, practice empathy, develop healthy boundaries. Speak truth with compassion, apologize without defensiveness. You're not just unlearning, you're rebuilding. 2. Therapy and mentorship. No one heals in isolation. Professional counselling, coaching, or even consistent mentorship can help unravel internal narratives. 3. Accountability. Healing means owning your actions and their impact. True leaders don't deflect or blame. They accept responsibility and make amends when necessary. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. 4. Forgiveness, including yourself. Healing is impossible without forgiveness. But forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about choosing to let it no longer define or control you. That includes forgiving yourself. That's an invisible cage, one that silently distorts how you lead. A man who hasn't forgiven himself often becomes his worst enemy and unknowingly turns his inner war outward. Self-forgiveness doesn't mean absolving yourself of accountability. It means you've faced the truth, made peace with it, and chosen to grow. You stop leading from your wounds and start leading from your wisdom. Forgiveness isn't a release for them, it's a release for you. 5. Spiritual and emotional maturity. True healing leads to alignment where your inner world matches the values you claim to live by. And that requires both spiritual and emotional depth. Whether through faith, mindfulness, meditation, or a personal code of ethics, mature leaders ground themselves in clarity and purpose. They become less reactive and more reflective. Spiritual maturity means you understand that leadership is stewardship. You don't just lead for applause, you lead for impact. The mature leader no longer needs to dominate a room to feel worthy. They know who they are, and that quiet certainty becomes a source of peace for everyone they influence. Leadership that transforms, not transmits pain. When we do the work to heal, our leadership changes. We lead with empathy, not ego. We listen more than we lecture. We respond instead of reacting. Leaders who have done the inner work build cultures of trust, compassion, and resilience. They lead from scars, not wounds. You are someone's future. Do the work so you don't repeat the past in someone else's future. But so does your healing. By choosing to heal before you lead, you break generational cycles. You model emotional intelligence. You create spaces where people feel seen, safe, and inspired. Healing is not a sign of weakness. It is the foundation of true strength. The most impactful leaders are not those with the loudest voices or biggest followings. They are those who have looked inward, confronted their darkness, and emerged with the wisdom to lead others into the light. Have I healed enough to lead without bleeding on others? Your future and theirs depends on the answer. Like, comment, and subscribe if you believe healing yourself is the first step to leading others well.